All right, welcome everyone. It looks like we're live now. Let me just get the chat window fired up here real quick and then we'll be ready to go. I think it's been almost a month since the last, actually probably closer to 2 months since the last stream that I did. I think since I've been back on YouTube posting videos again, this is the first time I've been back on stream. Hey Eyes Man, how are you doing? Good to see ya. You must be one of the, you must be a new viewer to the channel because I think I just noticed your name started popping up within me coming back on it and posting YouTube videos again. All right, the stream app is being a little glitchy. I just got to restart it real quick. Okay. Oops. Yes, activate that one. Hey Teddy, good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Okay, I think the stream chat's working now. Good deal. Let's see here. Looks like we had a few comments come in. Yeah, let's see here. John said, ChatGPT says this headline is fake news. Yeah, so we'll get into it. I pulled that article up. I might have to change that thumbnail though, because YouTube is pretty sensitive. They might get butthurt about me leaving that up there. Iceman said, if it doesn't want to admit to what it's being used for, then OpenAI isn't being transparent here. The word open is being used misleadingly, just like Proton AG used it when their AI chatbot released and misleadingly used it. All they saw was forks and controls, nothing else really. You can check their Lumo AI repo for this claim to be verified. That is what was reported by an AI researcher or something like that. I don't remember the name of the channel. Yeah, OpenAI is not really... They're... Yeah, I do think it's a misleading name because it would make you think that it's open source. But once money got involved, they changed their tune real quick. So it doesn't surprise me because it's going to be a multi-trillion-dollar industry within probably the next few years with as much money as being pumped into it. Well, actually, with all the amount of investments that's being announced in AI, it already is a multi-trillion-dollar business. And the problem that I have, let me pull something up here. The problem that I have with using service, so I saw Proton had announced their Lumo chatbot, and I've noticed this with the I had also noticed this with Duck AI. It's DuckDuckGo. You can come in here and select all these different models, but the problem is like, okay, you're still using ChatGPT though. I'm pretty sure what you're asking is still getting logged. Because there's no way that a company like DuckDuckGo has enough money to be able to fund all of the compute that's needed to run all of these resources in the background for free on their own servers. They've got to be paying for this. Or just using like OpenAI's infrastructure. I would just caution people. I mean, I personally am fine with using online LLMs. I do it under the assumption that everything is going to be logged possibly forever. I'm not going to do anything sensitive on those. I'm not going to ask it any sensitive questions just because of that. But if you're going to be doing anything sensitive, I would recommend doing it all locally on your computer instead of trusting someone else's stuff. But anyway. Yeah, I'm new here. Awesome. Well, hey, it's good to see it. I had noticed quite a few new people on the channel. By the way, welcome to the 2,300 new subscribers that I've got in the past month since I had returned to YouTube. The amount of support. Actually, it's not even been a month, 3 weeks. The amount of new subscribers that I've got is crazy, so I appreciate the support. I wasn't really expecting it to go that way, especially me being gone for the past year, but hey, I'm not complaining. That's pretty cool. So what does this crown logo type? Oh, okay, yeah. So the crown thing, YouTube, I think, is trying to enhance the chat experience. They're just not doing as good of a job of it as like Kick and Twitch are doing. I think it's because they don't really want to compete as much on the live stream end of things because they could do a lot better if they wanted to. But I think it's something to do with improving the chat experience or something like that. As I started this up today, there's this new button that showed up on my YouTube studio. It's a button that says engage with your audience. And it says I can do a members only live stream. I can do polls and QAs. So that's interesting. But yeah, it's just new stuff that YouTube is testing out. I'd like them to do kind of like how Kick, let me pull up Kick here. I'm not even logged in anymore. So never mind. I was going to pull up Kick so you guys could look at it. Let me see. I don't think I've got custom emotes on here. So the thing with YouTube, you guys are probably wondering, I wouldn't have even turned on memberships. But the thing that's annoying with YouTube, so like over on Kick and Twitch, I can, of course, this thing's not going to work now. I can pull up and do stickers, emotes, things like that. But on YouTube, you can't have that unless you turn on memberships. Not even I have the ability to do it. You know, like let's say the dented Pepe, for example. I can't put that in chat even myself until I had turned on memberships, which was annoying. I wanted people to have a way that it would make the chat experience better if I could upload like 50 custom emotes that people could spam during live streams. It's kind of fun. I like the custom emotes. But I don't know. I guess YouTube's trying to improve the experience a little bit. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. I was just looking to see. So I guess I can't highlight messages now because Social Stream is not working properly with that. I'll try rebooting it one more time. Let me just pull it up one more time here and we'll see if this turd works, but I guess it's probably not going to work. What local LLMs do you use and what hardware do you use it on? I have tried I would say one of the best ones that I've tried so far, although I don't use local LLMs all that much, is what's the DeepSeek? The DeepSeek 7B model. And I've tried the Gemma model because I think Gemma has visual capabilities as well. So like it can recognize images. I tried the ChatGPT 20B OSS model. That ran like absolute garbage on my hardware. So I'm running a AMD 5600X, 32 gigs of RAM, and I've got a NVIDIA 4070. And I guess I was under the impression that when I was running the GPT 20B model, that it was going to run off of the GPU, but it did not. It was running off of, it basically hogged up all my RAM. It ran incredibly slow. It sucked pretty bad. Gave bad results. Even when I was using web search to use it, I was using Ollama to use that. Let me see. I wonder if I can highlight messages now. Yeah, I can't highlight messages to pull them up from Stream chat, I don't know what's going on with that. I guess social stream or YouTube is something isn't working with this today. But anyway, I am just using mostly still online LLMs. And I just do a lot of fact checking. I don't want to outsource my thinking to LLMs, but as I get better hardware, I would like to be able to run other stuff. Like the GPT's 120B model is really good if you have the hardware to use it and you use web search grounding. Basically meaning you don't want to just go off the knowledge of the LLM. You want to force it to check sources. That's a good thing. That's why I like Grok and Perplexity so much, because that's a default feature where they will automatically search the web. Whereas if you load up Gemini, for example, you have to turn on. If I pulled up AI Studio right now, you have to toggle the option on in order for it to use Google search. I would prefer just use search by default instead of just relying on its own data, because it still will hallucinate a lot and get a lot of things wrong. But anyway, if you want to use online LLMs, if you're fine with the privacy stuff that goes along with that, Perplexity and Grok are still my favorite. I just read an article about a Linux app called Carburetor that lets you route all traffic through a local Tor proxy. Let me pull up a notepad here real quick, because I'm going to look that up later on. Carburetor. There we go. Anyway, we'll kind of go ahead and get started here. I was hoping to make this a little bit of a longer stream because I'm only doing these once a month now. And I wanted it to be a little bit more fun. Unfortunately, my coworker thought that it was a good idea to show up to work with the stomach flu, and I caught it. So I have been sick for almost the entire week. Yesterday was the first time that I was able to eat an actual meal. About an hour after I ate, started feeling sick again. And I've been sick all day today, still. I don't know what's going on with these viruses these days. I guess we've got super mutant viruses running around now, where instead of you used to be sick for like 1 or 2 days, now it's you're sick for 1 to 2 weeks. But anyway, I just feel like garbage today. But if I'm not as engaged today as you think I normally would be, that's why. It's just that I've just kind of been feeling like crap. But this will be the last. I'll be doing another live stream the end of November, another live stream the end of December. But it's basically just going to stay to once a month for right now. Work's kind of pissed me off. But I'll get into that here in a little bit. Isn't Perplexity a privacy invasive problem? Yes, it is. Assume that any LLM, online LLM that you use is logging whatever that you're asking it. That includes, maybe this is just me being hyper suspicious. You can go to a service like OpenRouter. If you guys, let me just pull up OpenRouter in case you guys haven't heard of it before, you haven't used it. It's kind of a cool service. You can pull up any LLM and run all of your searches through this service. So if I pull up models, you can pick whichever one you want. You can use free models, or you can pay for credits and pick whichever paid model you want to use. And when you click on these, let's see, to our knowledge, okay, this one says that it may use it. Let me see if there's one. So like on here, it says, to our knowledge, this provider does not use your prompts and completions to train new models. Assume that you're still being tracked. Just, if you're going to use these, I mean, I'm fine using it for more basic stuff. Like I said, I wouldn't put any of your personal stuff into an LLM, but you could use it if you want to. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's, in the grand scheme of things, if you're using Google search, if you're using Facebook or Instagram, no matter how private you think you are, they're collecting so much data. It's really not that far of a leap to just use something like Perplexity or some other LLM to search stuff up. Okay, yeah, that'd work great, Teddy. Or is it? Oh yeah, okay. I still have an old Mac Pro, but it has 120 gigs of RAM and 12 cores. Not sure if it could be used or not. I think with 128 gigs of RAM, you should be able to run a 70B model. I think a 70B model needs roughly 90 gigs of RAM. I could be wrong on that. But yeah, you could probably run a pretty solid model on, and you might even, I don't know as much about the 120B model. I wasn't even able to run the 20B on my computer, so I didn't even look that much into the 120B model running it locally. I know that if you can run it, it gives you good outputs. If you can run it on RAM, the 120B model would probably be pretty good. You could use Ollama, install the 120B model, and use web search grounding, and you'd have a pretty good local LLM. Doesn't using Tor just draw unnecessary attention if you don't really need it anyway? This is actually something, I'll probably get into it a little bit more here later on, but I'll give you a basic answer now. Basic answer, yes, it does. I pulled up during the Tor video that I made. Shit, it's already been 2 weeks ago. Time is flying. It's crazy. I pulled it up here on this latest video that I made. It was this slide right. Where's nation state actors? So there was the GCHQ QFD. There was a slide deck that the GCHQ made about how they keep track of people. So if you visit a suspicious website, I don't know what they qualify as being suspicious. They did not have that on their slide deck as to what they consider suspicious. But if you visit a suspicious website, not only is that activity tracked, you are then tracked across your activity across the rest of the internet. So if you are using something like Tor and your real IP address is known, this is really going to get into the weeds. I'll get more into this in detail later on in the stream because I had some comments come up specifically about this. But yes, you will draw attention. That's the short answer. Here's where I would go with it. If you don't really need to use Tor, then I would say you don't do it. If you don't need to, you don't have to. I use it anyway. The thing is, I am fine with it. I have already accepted being watched. By me making these videos, I guarantee you that I have already drawn the attention of the federal government. They don't like when people make videos like this. They don't like when people talk about stuff like this because it makes their job more difficult. They get butthurt because they want to have the ability. I mean, look at what's going on with the UK government. They want to have the ability to track every single thing a person does. People in their eyes have no right to privacy. Look at what the Danish Minister of Justice said, and I'm paraphrasing it here. I can't remember what the exact quote was, but it was something to the effect of, people are wrong to think that they have a right to privacy with encrypted messaging. That's paraphrasing, but that's what he said. If you go look up Danish Minister of Justice quote on encrypted messaging or something like that, if you just Google it, you will find the exact quote. But it was extremely asinine for them to say that, but that's how they think. That's how they feel, that average people like us should not have the right to privacy. And this was also something that came up during the chat control. By the way, for people that haven't heard, chat control failed. Fortunately, it would have been a disaster for privacy. But this was also something that came up during chat control, was that the elites, the politicians, all of the government people responsible for spying on other people, or they call it professional secrets, that those people would have been exempt from being spied on, but the rest of us would have been spied on. So where I'm going with this is, I'm fine with it. I have already accepted that by making content like this, they track everything that I do. Whatever. I'm still going to make these videos anyway, no matter if they get butthurt about it. But where I'm going with this, and I think I had brought it up in the Tor video, the reason that I think that it's good for people to get used to this now, let's say chat control would have passed. And let's say, because I think this will happen, that surveillance And the stripping of people's privacy rights in the UK is going to get worse. It's not if it gets worse, it will get worse as time goes on. The more people learn about this now and the more they understand, okay, here's how I can use Unix, here's how I can use Tails, here's how I effectively use Tor, because you can make some big mistakes with Tor that can unmask your real identity. The more people understand about this now, that when this legislation, because I do think that it will eventually pass, that when this legislation passes, that people will then have in their toolbox, inside of their mind, a method that they know how to fire up so that they can access things that are uncensored. 2 points on that. First, the reason that I keep bringing up, you should always fact check what LLMs are telling you. I'm seeing a lot of teachers making videos on YouTube right now about how kids are getting a lot dumber and how people are getting dumber in general, because they will bring up, oh, well, ChatGPT said this. Yeah, well, where's ChatGPT getting its info from? Did that person do any fact checking? For all they know, GPT could have hallucinated something and they just believe it. And I think that's stupid. It's why the reason that I like Grok and Perplexity so much, it by default will search through a bunch of sources. You can go then look at those sources for yourself. And I personally still think it's good. I still do a lot of independent searching, trying to find sources on my own. And I also am finding that I am less and less these days looking up info on the internet, and I'm going back more to books to find out information. I think we're headed down a risky path right now where so many people are going to start using these LLMs and they just take the answer that it gives as the gospel truth. Well, what happens when we get to a point in society where this reaches critical mass where so many people are using this? They ask an LLM an answer. They have no idea what the sources are. They don't do any fact checking themselves. They don't know how to even do any source searching for themselves. And we end up with a society of people who have a narrative fed to them by a chatbot. I see a lot of problems with that. And when I look at these teachers and these professors who are making these YouTube videos, bring up all these issues that they're seeing with these students who are cheating their asses off. They're so lazy that they won't write their own essays anymore. And I think, where is society going to head if we keep doing this? I could go down a big rabbit hole. Maybe I'll do that later on. I could continue this discussion going down this for like 20 minutes. I digress on that. I'll just move on. The other thing is, I also want to mention this now that I'm talking about it. I've seen a fair amount of comments come up on my new videos lately of people feeling defeated on privacy. Maybe it's just me because I have so much shit going on in my life. I don't have time to just focus on just one thing and obsess over it. I unfortunately am being pulled in 10 different directions right now. I'm not particularly enjoying it. Unfortunately, it's just the way life goes sometimes. But yes, there's a lot of negative stuff with privacy, but if you're letting it affect your mental health, I think that it's time to take a break, just go do something else, play some games, go out into nature, do something other than obsess over the issues that are going on in this space right now. I'm doing this stuff because I think that it's fun. Even Leo at the PC Security channel, I don't even watch his videos anymore. I do not watch other people's cybersecurity videos anymore. I will watch general YouTube videos. I'll watch stuff that's like entertainment related or React content, but I do not watch privacy or cybersecurity related videos anymore for 2 reasons. One, I don't want to obsess on the space too much. I just want to make videos that I think are helpful to people. And I think that the results of the last 3 videos, I was gone for a year. I really thought that my channel was dead. I thought that I was going to come back to YouTube and I thought these videos were going to get 1,000 to 2,000 views at most. And instead I had 2,300 new subscribers. These videos are getting all these views. People are saying they like these. They want more of these types of videos going into this stuff. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm onto something here. This is what people want, so I'm going to keep putting these out. Put out stuff that I think will help people out. The other thing, real quick, now that I'm on the topic, the other reason that I don't watch other people's, actually, I don't watch tech videos in general anymore. I remember right after I made this video, I was watching Chris Titus Tech's channel, and I could not remember what happened first. If I watched, because I think he made a Windows optimization video roughly around the same time, and I thought, did I watch his video and then I made this one, or did I make this one and his video was just somewhat similar to mine? I don't want to watch other people's tech videos anymore because I think that it's going to influence my channel. I want to put out stuff that I think actually matters. But if I watch other stuff, it's going to influence me on, even if it's to subconscious to an effect as to what types of videos that I should make. So that's why you're going to see stuff that maybe doesn't necessarily make any sense, like intro to OPSEC. This is just something that I kind of dreamed up on my own a month ago, and I thought, hey, I should make a video talking about this. And here we are, and it's done well, and people want that video, and I hope they got a lot of useful stuff out of it. But anyway. Let's see what else we got going on in chat here. But yes, Tor will draw attention to you. I would still use it anyway, but that's up to you. If you don't have to use it, you don't have to. I'm using Tor because I just want to move away from the ClearNet. We need more ClearNet services, more on Darknet like Tor or I2P. I agree 100%. I'll get into privacy discussions quite a bit here in a little bit, but I do think that, let me pull this up here. I think I made this post about this not too long ago. If digital ID and other privacy overreaches are the thesis, the antithesis is the privacy community growing in size and capability, and the synthesis is a growing chasm between the two, with less people being neutral on the middle. The reason privacy hasn't been at the forefront of discussions in people's lives for years past is because the war on privacy wasn't in the state that it is now. I'm seeing more people talk about it and show concern for protecting themselves. I think what's going to happen here, because digital ID just was approved in Switzerland, I don't know what the hell is wrong with the Swiss. They voted 0.4% in favor of digital ID. It is so stupid that people are voting in favor of this shit. They had a chance to vote it down, and yet they voted in favor of it. The UK didn't even give people the option of voting on it. They are just forcing digital ID on people. And I think what's going to happen, and I am seeing it more and more on the internet, I'm seeing more normies, so to speak, talk about privacy, is because they're starting to realize, hey, this actually does matter. I probably should get more invested in this. And what's going to happen is that chasm is going to grow, where you have less normies and more people who are in one camp or the other. The people who will feed their entire life to an LLM and they are fine with they either don't think about it or they just don't care about all the privacy issues that come along with it, or the people on the other side of the chasm that think, I'm not going to install anything on my computer that could be a privacy problem, and I'm going to actually going to care about the things that I allow in my life that could affect my privacy. And I think the reason that you saw so many people just kind of sitting in the middle over the past 10, 20 years plus is because there wasn't really that big of an issue for people to get concerned. But now that things are starting to get bad with privacy, people are all of a sudden thinking, oh, I probably should care about this. I better start taking an interest in this topic now. But yeah, I do think that Tor and I2P are going to expand a lot over the next 5 to 10 years. People are slowly starting to realize that this stuff does matter. Wouldn't it make it kind of pointless for them to keep tracking me if I use Tor all the time and not only when I visit the darknet? It would. Computationally, it's just too expensive for even an agency like the NSA or GCHQ to track everyone's activity through Tor. Computationally, it's too expensive. It's too expensive to try to crack the encryption. I mean, there's just, so far at least, I would say we're in a good position as far as encryption goes, but also they just, and I think a lot of people, even in the back of their minds, even if they don't want to admit it, know that the intelligence agencies do run a lot of Tor nodes. But the chance of you connecting to both an entry and an exit node through Tor ran by intelligence agencies is still somewhat rare enough that I think that it's worth it to use Tor still. But that's just me. But eventually I'm going to be getting into the privacy series as we go deeper into the rabbit hole here. So what you're going to see is, by the way, I was hoping that I could have the Whonix video done this weekend. I've been sick since Wednesday. And I still I kind of have this feeling, I've had it all day, all morning, that I'm just going to vomit at any point. I don't know. I'm guessing I'll probably have it for at least the next few days. I've just not really had the energy, not really been feeling it. But I did do a little more work on the Whonix video last night, but as we go deeper down this rabbit hole, we're eventually going to get into videos about setting up cubes with Whonix, routing all of your network traffic through Tor, and then segmenting everything out through separate VMs. So I'm starting off kind of surface level, making it easy going, and then we're going to really start going down the rabbit hole. But it's something that I think that a lot of people are going to start taking more interest in. Oh, by the way, I also decided I'm going to go ahead and make a series on the Graphene OS for mobile. I think that Graphene OS right now is the most viable privacy option that you have for cell phones. I'm kind of wanting to move away from the iPhones at this point. I do think they're better for privacy. I had a comment come up on, which video was it? I think it was, sorry, I'm just kind of trying to hold this back here a little bit, hoping that we're not going to have to do a bathroom break in the middle of me doing a live stream here. I thought I had the comment pulled up. Somebody was asking me about the data collection of Apple because they said, well, Apple historically has had better practices than Google for privacy. Let me just pull it up here real quick. I think I can pull it up from the recent comments. Because I pull up a link to show them, and I just to clarify to people, I've known this has been an issue with Apple for a while. I still think they're better than Google, but it's not by much. I still see people on the privacy subreddit talk about how Apple is better. I do think that it is. If I had the choice between a pure Google phone or a pure Apple phone, I would still take Apple any day of the week. But if I had the choice between a Google, an Apple phone, or Graphene, I would take Graphene. I do like the convenience that comes along with stuff like an iPhone. Having things like Siri is nice, but I think we're getting to the point where it's just, this stuff isn't going to be worth it. Here it is. So this was a comment that came up. I'm curious. People say Apple farm users' data, but I have yet to see a definitive article where evidence has been produced that Apple sells or shares data for its users can be individually identified. I know Apple may collect generic data that is anonymized, primarily for improving their own services and with an option for users to opt out, but distributing data to third parties for the purposes of marketing, etc., I'd like to know more. I would say, generally speaking, Apple still is a hardware company. That's where they make most of their money. Google is an ads company. Google gets the vast majority of their money from AdSense. They have one of the best advertising platforms. If you have a business, it doesn't make sense to not run Google ads. You can make a lot of money with Google ads if you run them. The problem with Apple is they still collect a lot of user data. So I responded, just for emphasis, Apple's better than Google from privacy perspective. I already said this here just a second ago. Let me pull this up so people can look at this. If you've never seen this before, this will give you an idea of all the data that Apple does collect on their users. Let's see. It's annoying that every time you post a link to YouTube, the YouTube posts a tracking link. If you click copy link, you have to just do select the text and highlight it. If you ever wonder what a company has on you for data wise, see if you can find a law enforcement and a government legal guideline process document to see what data is collected on you. Now, if a government or a law enforcement agency sends a subpoena or a search warrant or a FISA warrant to Apple, this is the data that they have on you, and this is the data that they will send over. Let's see here. Device registration. Basic registration or customer information, including name, address, email address, telephone number. Customer service records, media services, any type of the songs that you play. Again, address on file, email address, phone number. Anything that you buy off the store, anything you buy from apple.com, gift card information, Apple Cash, Apple Pay transactions, iCloud. Now, they do have the thing called the advanced data protection, which I think does end-to-end encryption on most of your stuff that Apple does not hold the keys to. If you're going to use iCloud and you care about privacy, you probably should use advanced data protection, because if you don't, all of your text messages, your emails, all of that shit gets backed up to iCloud. They have the keys to it. They can send all of that information over. They could look at that anytime they want to. Mail logs, email content, iCloud content, your photos, anything in the iCloud drive, contacts, calendars, bookmarks, Safari browsing history. They collect a lot of data on people is where I'm going with this. Now, the reason, so people might be asking, well, what separates Graphene from Google or Apple? Some of the big points that I can think of just off the top of my head, if you take most Google phones, if you guys haven't heard of this, it's an interesting device to go look up. There's something called Cellebrite, Cellebrite. A lot of law enforcement agencies around the world use this. What you can do is you can take, and especially old phones have this as a huge problem. What you can do is hook it up to a phone. Let's say law enforcement, or let's say the FBI or the NSA or something. Let's say for some reason you've drawn their attention and they decide to take your phone away from you. They can plug it into a Cellebrite. Cellebrite has a list of exploits that they keep handy that they can use to basically, even if you have device encryption turned on, they can break into your device, copy all of your data. Cellebrite will copy literally everything. It archives it onto a government computer, and they can look through every single thing that's on your computer. So let's say, even though Apple and Google phones are encrypted by default these days, with these exploits that Cellebrite has, and I want to be clear here, the people that these companies employ are some of the most technically capable, talented people that you could ever meet. These people are extremely talented. The technology they have is sophisticated. That is why they can just break through this stuff. They can plug it in. If you have an iPhone that is one version out of date, I think generally one version out of date is about all you need for a Cellebrite to be able to hook up to it. Even if you had turned the iPhone off and it gets taken, they could just power it up, plug it into Cellebrite, and copy all of the data off. That is why I'm more concerned about this stuff. And there are some things that Apple does that I do like. For example, you can do lockdown mode, which does cut some of that off. It does reduce the vulnerability to things like 0 days a lot more. Things like what the hell's that Israeli spyware company, Pegasus. It can drastically reduce your chance of getting infected with things like Pegasus. I don't know why Google doesn't have an equivalent to lockdown mode yet, because Apple's had it for, I think, at least a few years. I've been using it since day one. It's barely reduced the usability of my iPhone. There are certain things that are a little buggy with lockdown mode because it just disables it. So sometimes people will try to send you a certain type of a message and it just doesn't even load. That's a good thing, though. That means that it's doing its job. But here's where Graphene comes in. Graphene, when set up properly, does not have that issue where, let me go back to this, where all of this shit is being collected, all of your personal information. Graphene has special protections built in where you cannot just hook a Celebrite device up to a Graphene phone and it can just do a full data dump. It doesn't work like that. Granted, there's probably still exploits that they can find every once in a while, but the Graphene development team is incredibly talented. I've kind of tracked their work for a while now, at least a few years, and I think that they really are some of the best security and privacy developers in the entire community right now of open source developers. I mean, they're just incredibly talented people. What they've been able to work with is pretty impressive. And I think at this point, there's not much of a reason that I'm due for a new phone. And I thought, well, I could either drop the money on a new iPhone or I could get the money, just drop the money on a Google phone. So Graphene right now only supports Pixel devices. The Graphene team announced, I think it was just last week or the week before, that they are partnering with all they said is it's a Snapdragon powered phone. They haven't announced who it is yet, so they are going to announce more than Pixel phones. I don't know if it could be Samsung, it could be, I don't know if it's Fairphone, if they're Snapdragon powered. But I thought, okay, well, I could just get a Pixel phone, I could put Graphene on it, and I'll have way better privacy, and I'll actually have full control over stuff. I would prefer that personally. So I thought, well, got to get a new phone. I'm just gonna go for it. I'm just gonna embrace Graphene full time. I'm about to embrace Linux full time. Just trying to figure out, do I want to use Nix OS full time, or would I prefer Ghost BSD, or would I prefer Cubes? I think Cubes would be too much of a pain in the ass for me, just because of all the different things that I'm doing with my computer. I don't think Cubes would particularly work out great for me. Daily driving it, using it full time, it's probably going to be either Ghost BSD or Nix OS, but I'm still kind of working on that in the background a little bit. But eventually I'll be doing a full switch over on that. At this point, it's easier to just do that. The open source software has come so far in the last 5 years. It's actually impressive how good open source software is now. But anyway, I could go down an infinite rabbit hole there, but let's go ahead and move on here. Get caught up on some other comments here. Hey, Poseidon, good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Glad to see the new content you're putting out. Yeah, I've been enjoying being back on YouTube. Like, it's been weird. It was weird coming back and making videos again after being gone for the past year, basically. But yeah, and I've got some more stuff on that, but I'll get into that here in a little bit. I can see hardware, hard disk drive sales skyrocketing as people get serious about owning data on their own equipment before torrents, etc., get regulated so tight. I would really like to make a series of videos on sailing the high seas, but I don't think YouTube would allow it. So unfortunately, I won't have any of that stuff. But there are places you can go out there and find that have good info on that. But especially if you're willing to spend about let's say $40 a year, 40 to 50 bucks a year for some certain services, you can have a from what I have heard, just from what I've heard from other people, I can neither confirm nor deny this myself, that you can have a really good experience sailing the high seas. And you can have a much better experience than somebody who pays $100 a month for Netflix, HBO Max, Disney Plus. They get spammed with all these ads that they have to watch. There's all this garbage. And these other people get a way better experience. But anyway, I'm pretty sure YouTube would probably give me a community guideline strike, so I can't get too much into the weeds on that stuff. Let's see here. Did you have time to look into Raspberry Pi with Tailscale? I just briefly glanced at it. I haven't looked into it too much yet. I would like to get one or two Raspberry Pis and add it to the home lab just because they wouldn't take up too much space, but I haven't really gone down that path yet. It's moderately private, but it still has the same capabilities as you would expect, such as the tracking, for example, referring to Apple. Oh yeah, it's Apple's got, and I think Apple will get worse, by the way. Graphene OS might become more popular as older phones are still viable now, but don't get updates anymore. Yeah, and I think that more people are going to be interested in this kind of stuff. You buy a phone and 2 to 3 years later, you're supposed to just replace it. It's absurd. I agree 100%. And I think starting with the Pixel 8 or the Pixel 9, you now have Graphene, I think, said you now have 7 years of support for those phones, which is pretty good. Within 5 to 7 years, most of the time. My current phone and then phones that I've had in the past, I've noticed after about 5-ish years, the battery just really starts going to shit. Like at this point, if I go 2 days and I almost never use my phone, my battery will be pretty much dead by that point. And when I say that I hardly use my phone, I mean I hardly use my phone. I try to not use it if I don't have to. But yeah, it's looking like 7 years of support is pretty damn good. Lockdown mode disables live voicemail, RCS, etc. RCS can be re-enabled. See, and for some people that stuff is important. I just doesn't matter to me, so that's why I'm fine having it turned on. Also, ever heard of a recent initiative made by the Free Software Foundation called the Libre phone? I have heard about it. I don't know too much about it. I'm going to be exploring this stuff a lot more. The thing that I like about Graphene, it's been around a lot longer. It's had a lot more solid development behind it, but the new projects do have a lot of promise to them. But yeah, I have heard of it. I do think it's an interesting project, and I think that could potentially work out pretty good. Had the opportunity to watch Richard Stallman have a talk in Gothenburg where Bahnhof is opening a new server place in an old bunker that's 6,000 square meters. Damn, that's kind of cool. Let's see here. Might have to look into that more later on. Oh man, this is disgusting. Like, it must be something to do with the stomach flu that I've had, because every time I have like a burp or something, I can taste food that I ate early yesterday. Still, it's pretty disgusting. Anyway, let's get through a few things here. We got some privacy stuff to talk about, but this I just want to highlight the stupidity of some people is just astounding. This guy's doing the my friend when it's very clearly him that was doing this. And maybe this is just a bait post. But the amount of stupidity that some people do is just astounding. There's a guy on YouTube, or I think he actually streams on Kick. I've seen a few meme compilation videos of this guy where people will send him money and he will start a stream off. He'll have $50,000 or something like that in his bank account. He transfers it over to this online gambling platform, and literally within 2 to 3 minutes, He'll gamble all of that money away. And I don't know how people can go through life doing this kind of stuff. But anyway, this was ridiculous. One of the viewers of the channel, April, I think April's been a pretty long time viewer around here, brought this up. I didn't know this was a thing in Texas, that to even download apps. It's my impression was, I did a little bit of research on this, that even things like casual apps like weather or fitness apps, anything like that, are going to require ID to download. This is, again, things that you will have a problem with Apple and Google, but you are not going to have a problem with this if you're on Graphene. And I assume that by extension with privacy-related stuff, you probably also would not have it on Calyx or Libre Phone or Lineage OS. But this stuff is just, like I said, this is going to get a lot worse. It might be a good idea at this point, any websites that you're not using anymore, to go back and just start deleting shit. Just go remove. If you have a social media account, you don't really have a need for it, just go delete it. And the other thing is, we knew this was going to start happening at some point. It's going to start off casual. Or not casual is not the right word, but something that seems innocent. Wisconsin wants to force all adult sites to block VPNs with a new age verification bill. Like I said, this stuff's getting worse. Why I was talking about I think in the OPSEC video, that it's a good time to learn about things like VPNs and Tor, bridges, traffic obfuscation, because as this stuff gets worse and you wake up one day and this law is passed, and all of a sudden you wake up one day, you go to log in and you go to try to go to a website or use something or download something and you can't do it. Well, at least then you know how to bypass this and still be able to use your computer. But anyway, this was an interesting video. I'm going to link this in the YouTube chat here. You guys go watch this if you want to. This will be a little bit of a rabbit hole to explore. So this guy made this video 2 weeks ago, and he brought up some interesting points, that everything is backdoored by default. He talked about all the backdoors that are built in. For people that are newer to the channel, I don't know, maybe you guys are familiar with this, maybe not. There's things like the AMD Pluton, which I think AMD started building Pluton into the 7000 series CPUs, the Ryzen 7000. The Intel Management Engine. There's, of course, Windows, we all know is backdoor. Like, it's closed source. NSA has held Windows exploits close to their chest in the past to be able to exploit this stuff. Something that I thought was interesting about this video was that if everything is backdoored, I'm going to do a really quick summary. This guy goes into a lot more depth into this. But basically, what point is there in using privacy systems, privacy operating systems, or trying to encrypt things when the hardware that you're using or the software that you're using has been backdoored? And I've seen this come up, recent discussions on, I think it's Twitter, we're talking about how Bitcoin is actually operated by the NSA, how they control Bitcoin because they control the encryption of it. And I don't know, maybe it's just me. This seems like a little bit too doomer black-pilled of a perspective. Because where I would approach this perspective from is, okay, Intel Management Engine has been around for years. AMD's PSP, the Platform Security Processor, I think is what it's called, has been around for a while, and then they built in Pluton. If you guys haven't heard of Pluton, I think that's a huge problem. It was the Ryzen 7000 series where it was implemented, and AMD built it so that you can go to Windows Update to update Pluton. Pluton runs, it's an enclave that runs on your CPU. I don't want to get into too big of a rabbit hole on this, but I think most people could imagine the problem that comes up when Windows Update can update a black box on your CPU. There's so many security problems that come along with that. But the perspective that I've seen some people talk about, I also saw this come up on the Cubes forum. I think it was a discussion from a little while ago was, well, if the feds have all of this stuff built in that they've forced these hardware companies to build all this stuff in, what's the point of using Cubes? What is the point of using Tor? Why would we use Signal? And the counter argument that I would give is, at least to what we know so far, is that it has verifiably multiple times worked. Swedish law enforcement raided Molvad. They raided Molvad and seized some of their hardware because they were trying to, I think they were trying to unmask somebody and they couldn't do it. Molvad told them that they couldn't do it for them, so they seized their hardware. There was the slide decks that I showed you earlier. These were top secret. They were shared within Five Eyes. And as far as I know, the NSA and GCHQ did not mean for these to ever be leaked out into the public, where it talked about these systems they were building to try to figure out who was using Tor. What are people looking at when they use Tor? Signal has been proven in court that I think the only thing that Signal collects, and I think they have to do it just for the service to even work at all, is the timestamps of logging or using the app. That might be actually the only thing, because there was an FBI court case that came up about that. And then there was the Proton case that came up with the US government. I think it was probably about 2 years ago at this point, where they were able to unmask a person's real identity because of a recovery email listed on a Proton account, but they still could not get access to any of the Proton account messages itself. And it's like, okay, could the intelligence agencies have shit that is so secret where they are able to collect all this data because of this hardware, and they never reveal it to anybody, and it has remained such a tight-lipped secret for all these years? I just don't believe that with all of the employees, you would have had another Snowden type leak another Snowden type whistleblower come out if that was the case. I really don't think that they could have kept it secret for that long, that, hey, because of things like the PSP and Intel ME, it doesn't matter what operating system you use, doesn't matter what encryption you use, we have access to everything that everyone around the world is doing on their computers at any moment. I just don't buy it personally. So I guess that's a counterpoint to what this guy said. And again, this guy has valid arguments. I don't want people to think that I'm trying to start some kind of a YouTube drama with this guy. He brings up great points. This is just me presenting a different perspective on how I look at things. I do think that this stuff does work. I do think that Cubes, Tor, Hunix, Tails, Signal, all this stuff, it does work. Otherwise, you wouldn't see these intelligence agencies bitching about this stuff, and you wouldn't see them trying to gaslight the public and then try to convince Congress to pass laws that strips encryption away from people to where they can just snoop on stuff all the time. And I think you're going to see more of the open source community embrace this, that privacy is a fundamental human right. I think that these politicians just need to, they'll never do it, but they just need to accept the fact that people do not want to be spied on 24/7. There's a reason that people like to have closed doors. I could walk around with my dick out in public. There are certain places you could get away with that, actually. I think there's certain parts of the country, like I think there's things like nudist beaches where you can walk around naked. I wouldn't do it, even if I had the option to do it, because I don't want to. People want privacy, but these people, these politicians and the elites will try to gaslight you and make you think that, oh, well, you shouldn't want privacy. What do you have to hide? But then inevitably, in the case of like chat control in the EU, the politicians, literally the exact words were professional secrecy. That was the exact phrase that they used of why they should not be spied on. But all of the commoners, all of us should be spied on, but they should get an exception because of professional secrecy. Well, what they're saying is that they want their privacy. They just want to know what we are doing and what we're thinking. I don't know. Maybe it's just the free, I don't know what you call it, the free spirit, the free thinker in me that just, anytime this tries to get forced on people, it irritates me. And then that's why you see a backlash from people that, okay, well, we need more privacy. What can we do to enhance that? Also, in regards to my previous statement, which my opinion, we do need a similar thing, such as Libre phone, such as Libre computer, to make computers Libre and open source hardware, since we need open hardware to be compatible with distros that are approved by the Free Software Foundation. Open source hardware, such as components such as CPU, GPU, hard drive, any hardware that the computer has. The biggest hurdle that you are going to have to deal with that, and maybe we're getting to a point where this would be possible, it's just the complexity involved with it. So like right now, the US is trying to build a lot more fabs because we're concerned about, well, what happens if China invades Taiwan and we no longer have access to TSMC sending us all the hardware. TSMC is a big part of what keeps the Western world running. If we did not have access to CPUs or GPUs, it would take us back to effectively the dark ages because we wouldn't have a way to be able to supply all that stuff. Now, you have things like fabs here in the US that are getting built, but it would cut the supply down so much that the government would still have hardware being supplied to them. But basically, for all of us, while your computer craps out, well, you're not going to be able to get a new CPU, or you're going to have to wait the next 10 to 20 years. But the reason that you've had things like the CHIPS Act get signed into law, and I'm not going to get into left versus right stuff. I do think that generally speaking, the CHIPS Act was a good thing. We do need fabs built here in the US. It's not good to have everything centralized. The entire world runs on technology. Why would you centralize almost all of your supply on a tiny little island where a natural disaster could happen, or where some geopolitical events that could come up that could shut down half the world? So I do think that the US had the right idea by, okay, let's build some fabs here in the US so we can manufacture our own chips, and we're not dependent on another country in order to keep ourselves running so we don't get sent back to the dark ages. The problem is these fabs, the engineering talent that is required to run these, to make the hardware, to manufacture it, is so advanced. I don't know if it would be practical to have CPUs, GPUs, hard drives, all of that made by these companies, or at least anything that is somewhat comparable to what we had now. I remember it was about 5, 6, 7 years ago, I started seeing articles pop up about how China was finally starting to get into hardware manufacturing, and how the hardware that they were making at that time was barely comparable to CPUs that had been manufactured 20 years ago. Well, within just the past, 5, 6, 7 years, they have got to the point where their CPUs that they can make are pretty much comparable to what we can get from AMD and Intel. But it's because I think China annually has 350,000 engineering graduates from their universities. They have a really big focus on being able to make this stuff, and they are pumping a lot of money into their technology sector. So I think that's why things are working so well for them. But I think if we see a big level of investment, you could potentially see things like CPUs and GPUs, some sort of an open source option where it's verifiable that there are no there are no backdoors built into anything. You could get a motherboard, GPU, everything's open source. That would be great. But anyway, it's kind of a long rant there. I think Signal only have to keep the timestamp they register the account. Yeah, I think that's about the only thing they provide. And that came up, like I said, I think there was an FBI case that came up against Signal a few years ago, and they told them to pound sand. They've said, this is the only thing that we collect. What are you guys going to do about it? But yeah, anyway. And to make things harder for them, they provide the timing and computer red numbering of some sort. Yeah, Signal's a pretty cool app. It'd be nice if we had more stuff like them. They've put a lot of money and time into developing that app. Anyway, let's see here. So this got removed by the moderator. I was just going to bring this up real quick. Mental health stuff as it relates to privacy discussions. This person, I think they were kind of having a bit of a mental health spiral. This was, they posted an entire essay in here. I don't know why the Reddit mods keep removing stuff. I didn't see anything in here that should have got it removed by a moderator. They weren't posting anything that was identifiable to them, but this is Reddit. This platform has become so much of a joke now that they care more about money than having users input stuff that's valuable. But where I wanted to go with this is, if you're getting to the point where you're, and I see this stuff pop up on Privacy About once every month or so, a thread pop up about this. If it's getting to the point where your mental health is being affected over the state of privacy, just check out from it, go do something else, play some video games, go do something outside, go do something else. There's nothing on this planet that is so important, in my opinion, that to obsess about it to the point where your mental health just goes down the shitter. If you've got 10 different hobbies that you can invest your time into, maybe that's a good way to keep from obsessing on just one thing in particular. But it's not good to get to the point where people are having that happen to them. The other thing to bring up real quick, you guys already know where I'm going with this. Sorry, give me just a second here. You guys probably already know where I'm going with this. You guys might have seen this been coming up. Perplexity released Comet, which is their LLM browser. It's like a browser agent. My understanding, I haven't used it. I don't really want to. I think that you can give it access to your operating system, but I know for sure that you can give it access to everything done in the browser. So you could tell it, hey, go to this website. I want to book a dinner here. Go set up a reservation for me. Or I want to download this app. Go to this website and download this app. And it can just go and do that for you. People are going to become so dependent on this stuff and use it so much. OpenAI is already keeping this stuff. They're keeping logs of this stuff. If you get to the point where you are handing over so much data to these companies, this is going to be used to blackmail people. Even if this doesn't get leaked, even if OpenAI servers never get hacked and all of this stuff that's tied to you gets sent out onto the dark web for people to just search up in an archive, this will be used to blackmail people. This will be used as some sort of a social credit score thing, where you or where these people that are doing this are giving over so much of their personal data and personal lives to these machines that they know everything about them, and it can be used to do all sorts of nefarious things. And for the most part, what this is going to be used for is advertising. I think I've told you guys in past videos that advertising is going to get a lot worse. I saw a YouTube video about how $2,000 fridges are now having advertisements built into them. Well, what it's gonna the point that it's gonna get to is that and then it's Roku. Roku patented a method that it operates off of HDMI so that it can detect when you pause what it is that you're watching on a Roku device, where it will then show pause screen advertisements. Advertising is within 2 or 3 years projected to become a $1 trillion per year industry. If you guys think online ads are bad now, they're going to get a lot worse. And AI is going to make it get a lot worse because they're going to collect so much hyper relevant data to people. They will know exactly what type of ads to show to them that will get them to buy something. This stuff, there's the Gary V quote that advertisers run everything, and it's true. They really do run everything. But anyway, let's see. Oh, this is, I'm not actually, I'll save this for another time. This was talking about Zcash. I'm not going to get into like that versus Monero. I'm going to get into that on the privacy videos, like getting into and how to use crypto privately and securely. So I'm actually going to save this for another time because it's going to kind of be a whole nother rabbit hole there. And then let's see, I had a few things here. Oh yeah. So one of the other reasons that I'm making this series of videos on YouTube, this stuff is going to get a lot more sophisticated. So this is a letter, and I think I had pulled this up at some point. This had come up at some point in the past. So this is a Ledger. Ledger makes hardware wallets for cryptocurrency. Ledger security and compliance. This is the letter that was sent out to this person specifically. This will soon become a mandatory part of Ledger Live. It talks about how they're introducing something called Transaction Check, a new security feature designed to provide greater confidence in the safety of your transactions. Transaction Check analyzes each transaction before it's signed, adding an extra layer of protection on top of our industry-leading clear signing technology. This upgrade reflects our continued efforts to keep you safe. It affects these devices. To avoid any disruption, please scan the QR code with your mobile device and follow the instructions on our website to enable Transaction Check by October 15th. While you may have already received a notification on your Ledger device, anyway, what happens if it isn't completed? Access to Ledger Live may be limited, delaying access to your assets may be unavailable, incomplete setup, so on and so forth. What is being done in this letter? This is a highly effective letter. There were people that lost their asses with this letter. Some people recognized what was going on with this, but some people did not. Ledger had their entire, my understanding, and I could be wrong about this was a while ago that I looked this up. I think it was their entire customer database was hacked, and their customers' names, addresses, all this shit was taken. And I guess maybe it's just me, I find it a little strange that these companies that tout themselves as paragons of privacy and security would have it so that you could just willingly go in and access this stuff. There are layers of controls that you can build in that make it so that stuff like this should not be possible. Well, what happened was these hackers got access to this stuff. They sent out these letters. These hackers understood the user base. They understood the type of audience that they were dealing with, that they were much more sophisticated than your average 80-year-old in a retirement home. There were multiple social engineering techniques that went into this. They did a very good job with this social engineering attack. When I was in college, I ordered a ledger that shipped to my parents' house. They just got this in the mail today. Big reason I got into Zcash, lack of privacy plus money is about the most dangerous thing you could do to yourself. These people still don't know the amounts or types, or even if I still own crypto. Imagine they know you own 10 Bitcoin. I'd rather own nothing and keep my family safe. Thank you. All in Zcash. Good luck to the rest of you that chose to broadcast your bounty target to the world every day. Too dangerous for me to ever touch that shit again. hackers, these scammers, they are so much more sophisticated right now than people give them credit for. People still think, oh, well, the only thing I need to protect myself against are the Nigerian prince scammers that are sending out the emails that I can easily spot. No, they're getting a lot more sophisticated. It's why and maybe it's just me. I know Poseidon is on here. Poseidon works in, I think I don't know if you're still watching or if you dipped out for the day. I know Poseidon's mentioned on past live streams that he's, I think, a system admin, and he's looking at getting into some stuff more specific to cybersecurity. But I'm sure, and most people in the IT industry know that these attacks are getting way worse. It's not just this casual, oh, I'm going to send this really crappy written email. It is, there was a lot of time and effort that went into these letters, but the payoff that these scammers got from sending these letters out, they'll retire. They'll never be caught. Well, most likely they'll never be caught. You can't say never, but most likely these scammers will never be caught. They got an incredible payout. They could just retire on a beach for the rest of their lives, and that's it. And meanwhile, the people that had their retirements set up in crypto, they thought they were doing everything right. This company didn't have the level of controls that they needed to protect their customer data. I guess, to me, I'm kind of disappointed in Ledger that this happened. Granted, anyone and anything could be hacked at any time. It doesn't matter how capable you are. Anybody could fall victim to a scam at some point, no matter how well it's set up. Most people, even people with a good level of security consciousness, would still fall for this. That's how well this was done. But this is why you're going to see videos like my videos are going to go into a lot more depth. And some people have got butthurt and left comments. Oh, there was one moron on one of my videos recently that said, "Oh, you're wasting my time. This is 45 minutes. You couldn't just do this in 10 minutes." No, and that's a stupid person who thinks that they're going to be able to protect themselves from watching a casual 5-minute video on this stuff. They don't understand that this stuff is becoming a lot more advanced now. Obsession with privacy will make you go insane, but sometimes you should be able to give up data here and there. Yeah, I mean, I think some people can just take this stuff too far. I'm not going to lose my sanity just to try to protect every little possible way that stuff can leak. Like, shit's going to happen. Purism does not sell it here in the EU/Czech. So not every niche business is got to be sold here. Sorry, but it's truth. We want things to be internationally. So, okay, I'm not quite sure exactly what's going on with that. That was something else there. Anyway, YouTube embedding ads in the middle of live streams is becoming increasingly annoying. Has already happened 3 times on this stream. Okay, so it's interesting you brought that up, Poseidon. So I'm testing a theory, and I guess I don't really have a good way to control this. This is the first stream that I've turned ads on because I was interested to see what it would do for viewership. Because on YouTube, it's pretty much well known in the YouTube community. If you do not turn on ads for your videos, they will not get shown to people. YouTube makes no money off of it. So why would they show ads? It's why if someone who makes YouTube videos, like if they get a video, some kind of a restriction on their video for running ads, maybe they mention certain things that YouTube doesn't like them talking about, that they will just restrict the video. A video that would normally get 100,000 views will get 10,000 views. And so I've never ran ads on a live stream before, and I was kind of curious to see what it would do for viewership. Viewership does seem to be doing better today generally. Although I don't really have a good way to control for that. So I did turn on ads this time to see if it would boost viewership. It doesn't seem like it made that much of a difference though, so I'll try it again next time without it and just look at some analytics. But I think YouTube does restrict the live stream reach as well if ads are not turned on. But I don't know if that's as well documented as it is with just videos that are uploaded to YouTube as opposed to live streams. Has the adult industry paid enough? Why does tech depend on the cost of that? It adds to human tragedy. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a good question for sure. I had to blog multiple email centers this week for phishing. The email body content was really good. However, the email header still gives it away. Although normies don't pay enough attention. Yeah, I'm going to be doing a email security video, but yeah, email stuff. For the time being, email is still somewhat easy to spot for people that look a little bit below the surface, but scammers have really stepped up their efforts there as well. Man, I am just not really feeling all that well today. Let's see. Let's go over some other stuff here. YouTube algorithm updates. Teddy had brought this up in a comment recently. I've been noticing this stuff. YouTube is forcing more updates on the platform. I noticed one thing that they're doing, if you guys have noticed, I've noticed comments have been slipping through that normally I would respond to, but I just didn't notice them. And then I come back 2 or 3 weeks later and I notice them. In the YouTube studio, the way for the longest time that it used to be is YouTube would show comments in the order that people left them, so that way it was easy for me to check for what I had responded to and what I had not. They changed that recently, and I was not aware of this change where it sorts it by what it thinks is most relevant. So that had caused me to start missing a lot of comments, so now you have to redo the sorting order in order for that to happen, and I cannot change that as a default. It forces that. It's forcing that. I don't know why YouTube is doing this. Part of their updates that they're doing on the platform, also, they're hiding a lot more comments now. I don't know what the deal is with this stuff. This is stuff that they're forcing. It's not stuff that I am doing on my end. It's things that YouTube is forcing. I am seeing this come up on other people's videos when I watch sometimes, and I've seen it pop up on my videos as well, where people will say they've left me a comment on something, and it's just not there. YouTube is removing it in the background. I don't know what the deal with it is, but this is just stuff that they're doing on their end. If you notice that, it's not really much that the person running the channel can do with it. YouTube is just being a turd about this stuff. Let's see here. When will the new Hunix video be out? I was hoping it was going to be this weekend. It's probably going to be next weekend. I wasn't anticipating being sick. I got almost nothing done yesterday. I think I was able to get like 20 or 30 minutes of work on a video done yesterday, but I was so sick yesterday. I just couldn't focus on anything. I still feel somewhat sick today. I've just got this constant feeling of like I could vomit in any second. I don't know, maybe I got something worse than the stomach flu, because it seemed like the stomach flu usually just lasts for a day or two, but this has been almost all week now, so it's annoying, but it is what it is. Can't really change it at this point. Let's see here. Let's see here. Let me pull up something here real quick. So I guess we'll get into this in the next live stream. I was going to cover it in this one, but this is kind of a rabbit hole. Someone in the Reddit community, or not Reddit, the Discord group, posted a link about the dead internet. I'll cover it in the next live stream probably. But I thought this was a pretty good read. The internet's going to be changing a lot. But yeah. The mod list. Where's the status and all the shit with the mod list? I talked about this briefly during the last live stream. Actually, it'd make a little more sense for me to do this first. I'll just kind of give you guys a general update on where things are going with the channel here. I would like to keep doing at least once a week. It's just that being sick and work has thrown me off. For the younger viewers on my channel, if you're in your 20s, I wish I would have learned this in my 20s. It's just sometimes it just takes too long to learn this stuff, or it takes longer than it should. If you're in your 20s and you're watching this, I wish I would have learned a lot sooner on in life that there's a lot of value in, I guess I'm just kind of off frame from camera here. I wish I would have learned the value a lot sooner of being a mercenary. So I think I told you guys a little bit during the last live stream that I was launching into something new. I work a full-time job, YouTube, social media. I don't make my living from doing this stuff. This is just stuff that I'm doing on the side. Got into this new gig. Thought things were going to be going pretty well. I thought the interview went well. Thought we covered everything that we needed to. Got started, and then goalposts started being changed. So instead of me having 2 days per week, I think starting here before too much longer, it's sometime next month from what I've heard, is that I'm only going to have 1 day per week, and that I'm going to have to give the rest of my time to the company. And I'm not one of those people that really buys into hustle culture. I would say for most of my adult life, I've worked about 50 hours a week on average, sometimes 60 hours a week. There was I think a year and a half period where I had taken no vacations. I was averaging probably 55 hours a week at work. But it kind of sucked. That's nothing to brag about. I don't know what the deal is with a large part of culture where people think that it's something to brag about, working all of these hours. It's just, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I think that it's kind of stupid to, why are people bragging about this? Why brag about giving your life up to a company who doesn't care about you, and they will just grind you into the ground? I have been kind of irritated lately because all these goalposts got changed. And I initially took this because I thought, okay, well, the long-term opportunities are going to be pretty good. And then it changed, oh, well, it's actually going to be years before you could potentially do this. And it's like, okay, so now I'm being stonewalled. All this stuff is going on. Now they're changing the goalposts. They think that I'm going to be fine with only having 1 day off per week, and that I should just do this for years on end. I'm not doing any of that shit. So work has kind of been chaos lately. It's going to be chaos for a couple more months. I'm planning my exit at this point. I'm not going to work for a company that's going to change its goalposts and do this kind of shit. But I think a good lesson for those of you that are younger and haven't quite learned this lesson yet, the best way to get ahead is be a mercenary. Always look out for your best interests. Your manager, your company will not look out for your best interests. They do not care about you. They only care about themselves. And so, yeah, I'm been talking about moving out to the East Coast for quite a while. And so I'm probably going to be moving out to the East Coast here pretty soon. I am thinking maybe early next year at this point. One of the big reasons for me is like the Pacific Northwest is pretty nice. It's the scenery and up here is some of the best that I think you could find in most parts of the country. I've been all over the United States, but you know, a place like Washington's got amazing scenery. I mean, you've got mountains. You could go out to the coast. You'll have the ocean. You generally have pretty good seasons, things like that. But I got to go to a place where there's sunshine pretty much year round, and that was something that I really liked when I was in Florida. Was the basically almost constant sunshine. If it's not raining, which it does do down there quite a bit, it's pretty much always sunshine. But I thought, you know, if these employers are just going to be dishonest with how they deal with their employees, I get hired and they tell me that it's going to be one way, but then a couple weeks in, oh, well, we're actually going to change the schedule because this is beneficial for us. And well, you know, that opportunity that you were told about, yeah, it's actually going to be 5 to 10 years before you can do that. We need you to do this instead. I'm not wasting my time. I pretty much just accepted the fact that I thought this place was going to work out. I really wanted a place where I could go in long term. I don't know why I thought that, because I've been burned in the past a few times, but I thought, okay, well, maybe this will be different. It seems like from the other people that I had talked to that this was probably going to work out. But then I go in there and I find out from all these other people that, oh yeah, this we've actually been waiting for a long time for these opportunities. And I thought, hope is not a strategy. That's the other thing that I think you should take away. Hope is not a strategy. You have to think logically, because some of these people are trying to gaslight themselves and gaslight other people. And I think they're doing it to try to cope. Is, well, if I just hold on a little bit longer, this might work out. Yeah, but that's hope. That's not a strategy. That's not going to get you anywhere. You have to look out for yourself. So anyway, I've been super aggravated lately. That's one of the reasons you've been seeing delays with videos, because work has been demanding so much of my time and attention that I have had almost no time for anything else. And yeah, I'm getting a little bit irritable at this point. So here in probably in about 2 or so months, I'm going to be making my accent. Like I said, I'm probably just at some point early next year going to get down to the East Coast and just make the move like I've been talking about doing for years and just get it done. But anyway, let's see here. Do you currently have a Pixel with graphene on it that you are using? Not currently. I'm going back to using Pixels. I had switched over to iPhone a while back just because I wanted to move away from Pixels for a while. I kind of wanted something that was more simple. And as things have been changing in the privacy sphere for the past couple of years, I'm now seeing more of the benefits to using a Pixel with graphene. So I'm going back to using Pixel phones again. I don't know what's going on with this. I don't know if this person's just being a clown or what the deal is. I don't know. It's hard to tell. We'll see if they act goofy still. Hold up. If people are going to come on to the videos, I don't know if this person's legit or not, if they're trying to be funny or something. If people are going to come in here and just do type in weird comments that are just goofy as shit, go do it somewhere else. I don't know what the deal with that is. Maybe it's a bot account or something. I don't know. It's hard to tell because there's a lot of bots that are showing up on live streams these days. But anyway, I emphasize with you on that. You have to be a merc to really make decent money in corporate America. I've been kicking myself for not taking advantage back in 2023 when the market was good. Yeah, and I should have been more aggressive back then too. I guess I've still... I try to, at least to some extent, try to see the best in things, but sometimes I think that corporate America can bring out the worst in people, and that seems to be the case with this place here as well. That I don't know what the deal was. It seemed like the interview went well. I thought I had asked the right questions, and I remember specifically the things that we had talked about, and if they would have said during the interview that they were going to be changing the requirements, the days that I had to be at the company and all this other shit. If they would have said that in the interview, I would have turned it down. I would have never taken the job because I was fine doing what I was doing before. But instead I get in there and then they change the goalposts and I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do any of that shit. Once someone starts doing that, they will continue to push the envelope to see what else they can get away with. And I have no patience or tolerance for people that do that kind of stuff to their employees. I think that it's being completely disingenuous. I don't know if it's done on purpose or if they're just incompetent or what the deal is. But I just, now that here within a week, I think next week or the week after is where I have to be there 6 days a week. And I'm fucking pissed off about it. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with things. So you guys might see the videos slow down temporarily. I would like to continue the one video a week pace, but Saturday is literally the only day that I will be able to get stuff out. So we'll see how that goes. I'll have a little bit of time off the holidays so I can do live streams. I'll live stream end of November and end of December. But anyway, let's get back to the modding stuff. I have figured out how to make a Wabbajack list, and I think rather than spending a ton of time trying to write up all the initial documentation, because it's going to be ridiculous, like I've already gotten lost in the weeds trying to write it for the Fallout 4 mod list, I figured out how to set up a Wabbajack Fallout 4 mod list. If you guys don't know what it is, basically you can download the Wabbajack utility, and as long as it supports the game, it will auto install this mod list. So if I go here, if you guys haven't seen this before, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool utility. So you can come in here, select game. These are all the games that it supports. So basically what you do is you download Wabbajack. Like Living Skyrim, this is a really cool mod list. So let's say you want to play a Skyrim with 2,000 mods. With Wabbajack, you do not have to set any of this stuff up. You go to the Wabbajack utility, you say, I want to play Living Skyrim. Wabbajack goes and downloads and installs all of this. You just click play. That's literally it. There are some things that specific mods, there might be a couple things you have to do to finish setup, but for the most part, these days, they have set it up so you can do a one-click install. So I went through the documentation. I figured out how to set up a list where people will be able to just download the Fallout 4 mod list, play it, and they won't have to spend 3 or 4 hours setting it up. So I would like to have that done within, I don't know, whenever I have enough time off of work, like an actual proper weekend, some proper weekends where I could do this stuff, where I can set this up, mod list will be out, and people can start playing it finally. And I think that will be a much better solution than just making people go and manually install all this stuff to start out with. I'll just give people the easy option to do, because I think that's what most people would prefer. But yes, I have not forgot about the mod list. It will be coming at some point. And I would personally like to get back into Fallout 4 and start playing it again myself. So it's going to happen. I know I've been talking about it for a while. It's just a little bit longer, a little bit more patience, and then it will be ready to go. Same here. First interview for an MSP went well. Invited me to a second interview, then cancel an hour before the scheduled time. See, that is just such disingenuous, dishonest behavior from these companies. It really pisses me off when they do that kind of stuff. It is willfully, and I saw this stuff. I have completely stopped going on LinkedIn. I was thinking about trolling LinkedIn. I really would like to troll them because it is such a garbage dump of a platform. I saw a post come up on there. This was probably the start of the year when I was considering actually going and posting on there some stuff because I was actually thinking, oh, maybe I'll make some actual real posts on the platform, but it's such a garbage dump. But this one person posted about how they set up interviews for all these candidates. I think it was the owner of the company. And they said they made them show up at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. They let them all sit out there until 4 or 5 p.m. They saw which ones left, which I think there was only 1 or 2 people left by the end of the day that didn't leave. And then they called them in for an interview, and I think that person got the job. And they were bragging about how they think this makes a better employee because they're going to be devoted to their workplace. And I thought, what a scumbag, scum-sucking, absolute piece of shit to waste the time of people who are in the working class, who are just trying to pay their bills and get by, from some employer who's going on there bragging about doing this kind of stuff. First of all, if you have a person who's desperate enough to just sit there for 6 or 7 hours past the time that they told they would be interviewed, they're so desperate. Do you really want someone that is that desperate for a job to work there? Number one, from an employer, that seems stupid to me. But number two, that says a lot about that type of a person, that they would do that to somebody else. That is scumbag behavior. I despise employers who behave like that. And when I got hired into this job that I'm at now, I was hoping maybe I could make a career out of this. There was the potential there to do it, but then getting in there and having all these goalposts to be moved, and you'll probably have to wait 5 or 10 years in order to get in and actually start doing the stuff that we had talked about, and you're just going to have to do all this busy work for a while. No, not doing that. Not going to tolerate it. And now because they did this, I'm not going to give them the courtesy of a proper notice. I'm going to do the bare minimum that I have to get by there for the next couple months while I figure out my move out to the other side of the country. Because I thought, if they can't be upfront with me on this, then why should I be that way with them? You know, something that I've heard a couple of times when I've watched Asmongold's stream is he tells people, oh, ABC, always be cheating. And I don't necessarily think that's the greatest way to go through life. You know, like if you lie on a resume, it's a dangerous tactic, because most likely, especially in any kind of a technical job, you're going to get called out on it. People will find out about it, and it can backfire on you in a big way. But then I look at the behavior of these employers, and I think, this is why people are cheating so much to begin with, because these employers can't behave honestly. So, I don't know. One of those things. I guess we'll see how things work out, but I just got to get through a couple months, and then hopefully I will be on the other side of the country where it's constant sunshine, and I will be in a good mood when I wake up because it's sunny outside, and not half the year is dark outside, rainy and overcast all the time. I think that's a big part of why I've been so cranky lately. But anyway, if closed source software steals data, what about the open source market? Do you know what kind of data Ubuntu/Debian and other distros collect? The problem with Ubuntu, this came up as a comment on one of the recent videos, is that Ubuntu is big. It's influenced by big corporations. Fedora was, maybe it's going to be influenced by Red Hat and IBM at some point to force telemetry, where they do collect some data. Just the thing that I want to make sure people are aware of, just because something is open source doesn't mean that you can fully trust it. Generally, it's better. Generally speaking, open source is better than closed source. But I would stick with something. As far as I know, I don't think Debian collects any kind of telemetry, but Ubuntu, last I checked, does collect telemetry. But I haven't used it in years, so could be wrong on that. I've been an iPhone user since iPhone 4 and have considered a Pixel with graphene. I'll let you know how it goes. I'll be doing an upgrade here soon. I'm going to do videos on it. I figure there's more and more people that are interested, so I'll show the process from getting started to setting everything up, and we'll see. We'll see how things go. The MSP was local, and I didn't know the interview was canceled until I walked in asking about it. See, and they should have told you. I mean, the HR person, the hiring manager, whoever was that was involved, they should have told you they had the means to do it. They knew that you and or other people were going to be coming in for the interview. This is just dishonest behavior on their part to do it. It shows a sign of them not caring. And if they're willing to show that level of disrespect during the interview process, imagine what it would have been like if you would have got a job there. I mean, it would have been 10 times worse. Hope the move works out. Change of scenery makes a huge difference. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to going back to Florida. I really liked it. I think that sometimes a person just, you kind of get into a rut from being in the same place too much, where at some point you just have to rip the band-aid off and make a massive change. And I think that moving all the way across the country is going to probably do a lot of good for me. I think at that point, I think I need it at this point to force me to adapt and do some different things. And like I said, I think sunshine is, I would say I'm somewhat, try to stay somewhat up to date on health stuff. I try to keep myself pretty healthy. And there's just more and more research behind showing that sunshine is good for a person. That's one of the problems with Pacific Northwest in general, whether it's Washington or Oregon or Idaho or any of those places, that they're dark outside a lot. It's a lot of rainy weather. Those are my thoughts. Was wondering about their turnover. Now I know why. Yeah, just shitty people is the problem. But yeah, mercenary behavior. Always look out for yourself. These companies don't care about you. Guess I could probably just go, oh, why is that work now? Okay, well, must have been something I did on here. But anyway, these companies don't care about people, unfortunately. Like I said, look out for yourself at the end of the day. You have to be your own best advocate. Oh, one other thing. If you guys come across any channel that you're aware of, because I would like to start recommending, because I've got here on my channel here, I've got some recommendations for different YouTube channels, but the problem is the bigger you get on YouTube, the easier it is to get noticed, but it's hard to climb up when you're a smaller channel. Like, I've been looking at getting into playing Stalker more recently, and I would like to recommend channels that put out good content. Oops, I guess I should probably go back to this here. I would like to be able to recommend stuff like these smaller channels to give other people a boost. So if you guys know of stuff that, like a good channel, a smaller channel that does good stuff, feel free to let me know. And if I think that it's something that kind of matches up with the type of videos that I do or stuff that I'm interested in, then I'll add them to the list of recommendations. But yeah, I would like to change this list here and make it so that instead of people with a million subscribers, it's people with like 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 subscribers. But yeah. Let's see here. Is Graphene supported on the Nothing phones? Currently, it's only supported on the Pixels. Graphene said they're going to support a new phone manufacturer. They said it's Snapdragon equipped, but that's all they said. I don't know who it is yet. I think they were going to announce it sometime within the next month or two who it is. But yeah, it's going to be more than Pixel soon. If you can hold out for, I don't know, probably another couple months, then you'd have a different option than just using Pixels. But anyway, I think that's probably a good point to leave it there. I am not feeling the greatest right now, so I'm going to get off for the day. I also just noticed I forgot to start recording in OBS, so I do not have a video to, because usually what I do is I use the video to reference when I make my timestamps. So it might be a few days. I'll eventually probably put timestamps on the live stream, but no, I don't have a video to work off of. I'd have to figure out a different way to do this. So those who are watching this afterwards, unfortunately, the timestamps will be delayed. I guess the channel Addie Lamar is pretty good. She's talking about personal integrity as well, but she's not figured out good volume yet. Yeah, that's the problem with YouTube is YouTube is a numbers game. Like the more videos you post, the better you do. But to make stuff that's decent, like it does take some effort to do that. I think Graphene is, yeah, it's only pixels for the time being. But yeah, I'm gonna get off here for the day. I'm not feeling great. We'll see. Gotta go back to work tomorrow. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm probably gonna be cranky this week, so I'm gonna be going in sick, but don't really have much of a choice. But anyway, thanks for being here today, everyone. I appreciate it. It was a good stream as always. I will be back on stream end of November, and I'm pretty sure as long as things go well, I will have the next video. Next video will be up next weekend. If I can have the Hunix video done, that it will be the Hunix video, or otherwise it will be something kind of in between. Because I want to make sure that I do a good job on the Hunix video. There's a lot more details to that one than figuring out what's important on that one versus things to leave in versus things to leave out for like an introduction to Hunix kind of. But anyway, thanks everyone. I appreciate it. And I will see you guys on the next one. Have a good weekend.